Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coast Files, your podcast for ocean mysteries and true crime. I'm Chantel.
I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Megan.
Good evening.
Well,
It is-
or good
Yes.
day.
Well, it is good evening to you
just want to
two.
say that I love, for anyone watching or you two, love the vibes of your room. It's very
Oh, yeah.
purpley and
So I think
Candles.
everyone that has indoor plants has considered the winter getting external light. I was at Chantel's former apartment and I saw her awesome lights and I said, I need that immediately, if not only just for the color. And that's what's
Right.
casting this beautiful purpley glow.
Mm-hmm. It's making
Um,
the blanket behind you glow a little bit. I think it has a white on the inside, doesn't it?
It does. It's kind of like a Christmassy blanket. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got a little hue to it.
Well, I was hoping that my cat would join me, but she is next to me in her new cat tree, and she's very cute. So perhaps we'll
So
see her
she's
later.
joined you just in another
Yes,
area.
She's just off camera. She's
camera.
stage left or stage right.
Yes.
Hopefully
Hopefully
she'll
Samus
make
is
an
always off
appearance
camera.
later on, maybe.
I always hope
if
to
we're
see
so
a cat
lucky.
in
She
a
could
video.
curl up on that blanket behind you.
Mm-hmm.
She's passed out, so that's unlikely, but I'm gonna hope. So if you've clicked on this, you already know the episode title. But before we get to that, I have a teeny bit of housekeeping, and it's all positive stuff. So first of all, I just want
Oh.
to say to everyone that has been, interacting with us on Coffee, thank you so much. We have a few people that are donating on a monthly basis, which is just fantastic.
You must
Amazing.
really love us. We thank
You
you.
must, I think we're getting pretty serious.
Yeah.
So if you haven't yet and you feel generous, which even just listening to this, watch this on YouTube, that's fantastic. But if you want to go to coffee.com/coastfiles, you can. That's ko-fi.com/coastfiles. You can donate at any monthly amount, one time. You can just follow us, whatever you want, but all that helps a lot. Also, if you want to subscribe, if I can speak English, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're halfway to 500.
Okay.
So that's pretty good.
We're getting up there.
Nice.
We're getting, again, I think we're hit that million any day.
Yeah, any day now. That million is around
It's
the
a
corner. I can
marathon, not a
smell it.
sprint.
Yeah, there we go.
So,
how we're taking it.
I mostly listen to podcasts, but I have, watched the occasional video like Wine and Crime and That's How We Drink and such. So if you're interested, we are on YouTube. And then we also have really funny shorts that Chantel puts together that are just so good. And also the way
Thank you.
you edited the video, Chantel, is so good and so funny. So I
Yes.
recommend you go watch. If you're like, wow, that episode was great.
Or if you listen and you're like, I want to hear it all again, but
Again,
I
yeah.
want that visual
one
element.
more time.
Yeah.
Go
Maybe
Play
I
that
missed
same
this
song
fact.
again.
Play that same song. We were just saying that our humor is just like Family Guy from 20 years ago.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, and one more thing, that this is almost more important. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, because it takes literally a few seconds, but it helps us so freaking much. And we love that you listen, but if you want to take an extra 5 seconds, rate us 5 stars, please.
Yeah.
That would be great.
If you're going to rate
Just lie to us.
2 stars, please don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't
You haven't
stop
made it
you.
this far anyways.
Yeah, it's fair. You're probably not here.
I would rather you rate us 5 star and then send us a really mean comment. I can handle the mean
Then
comment.
we can
it's
work
engagement.
on something,
That's right.
which we are working on things. We're working on it.
I take the had a long day today. Constructive criticism. Well,
Yes, we're learning.
Yeah.
I think we've come a long way.
Mhm.
I feel like the editing's getting easier, or maybe I don't care as much. I don't know. I mean, I'm just
yeah,
like, whatever, it's
I think
going
it's the
in.
latter for me. I'm like, that's just happening. Yeah, I say a lot. Deal with it.
I take
I-
a lot of a lot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just feel like in general, there's a couple different formats for podcasts, and some are very, loosely curated and they're very casual. And I like that style. And then some are more produced, and I like that style too. So, it
Yeah.
depends on what you're doing. Oh, I had mentioned a couple episodes ago, there's one that I'm listening to now called Heart Starts Pounding. And I am
I've
obsessed.
heard of this, but I've never listened.
So her
That's
name
good.
is Kaylin Moore, and it's kind of like our format except more broad, where we're kind of anything and everything, but it's water related, and she's kind of like anything and everything. So it's very,
Okay.
very cool. And it is a little more produced, so like sound quality is great. She'll have like kind of
Hey,
music and
hey,
stuff.
our sound quality's good. Okay.
Okay, so I guess when you're by yourself speaking into a mic reading a script, it's just such a different experience
It
than
is.
whatever it is that we do, which I
Yeah.
love,
Yes.
but it's
We don't
different.
have anything scripted. I mean, sometimes we might read our notes, but
Except for the
I
opening.
don't.
The opening is scripted,
The
but
opening
still.
line is scripted.
But she's off
Yeah.
book now. She's off book. She
Yeah,
can say
I
it without
am.
even reading
I
it.
Thank you.
Almost, but we're
All
pat
right.
48
Just gonna
episodes in.
pat
Well,
myself on
in
the back
taking with
there.
some of our feedback before, maybe we should get to the topic.
Oh, hey, but
Wait,
again,
what are we over today?
we are a chatty podcast. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, if you were with us in real life, you would be in it for the long haul. It would be hours.
Yeah.
I think at this
Well,
point you're
also,
already in.
when you're with us in real life, I don't think we ever actually finish a point. We just keep like feeding off of like halfway through a point, and then
But
like
we're having
the
so much fun we
beginning
don't even
conversation.
notice.
No, we don't. We don't.
Or-
but sometimes
or
I'll go
s-
back and I'll be like, "Oh right, yeah, like Lindsay
No,
never
I was
finished
gonna
that
say,
story about
there's-
X, Y, Z."
There's definitely times where I say something funny and then I'm like, hold on, wait, that wasn't even what I was trying to say. And the main
Yeah.
point is lost forever.
Yeah,
But
gone.
it's
No
still a
idea.
great journey. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it is.
the
So join us.
topics today, I think we've created a new umbrella. So this may be a topic that we come back to a few more times, and it's chilling cruise ships. And this story is bonkers. It's fairly popular under this kind of umbrella, so maybe you've heard about it. It is the disappearance of Rebecca Coriam. So does that sound familiar to either of you right now?
No, I mean I might have heard it on a podcast somewhere before. Probably.
I don't think it is. I like I said earlier, when you said this topic, I thought it was someone else that I was thinking of.
Okay.
I
So I
think
don't
once
think
I
I've
get
heard of this
once I
one.
kind of get into it, you're probably going to recognize it. So
Yeah.
before we get into all the deep and depressing stuff, I do have two photos I'll share of my first and last cruise that I've ever taken or will take. And this was in 2005. Oh my God, that's 20 years ago.
That's 20 years ago.
Oh my God, I thought this was part of the case for a second. I was like, what?
God, that girl looks familiar.
Megan was on the ship when it happened.
Did we find you?
She's
Did
such
we
a little
solve it?
baby?
It's
A
me.
mystery?
So this
Oh
was
my
when
God, your brother is so little.
this is when I was in high school. And we were on a Carnival cruise, which is not the cruise line I'll be talking about today. But I mean,
Mhm.
Carnival cruise, I think everyone's heard of Carnival cruise lines.
Yeah.
And this is before your sister was even born then. right?
Lily was not even a twinkle in anyone's eye. My little brother, Callum, was a toddler. I think he was like
What a
3.
cutie.
I know, he's so tiny. And then Connor and I were, I think Connor maybe was in grade 10, but we were just a couple of young kids. And being underage on an American cruise line
That sounds
sucks.
awful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sucks. I'll just tell right now. At least
Yeah,
if
see,
you're on a
Aaron is
resort,
enjoying a beverage and you are standing
Oh.
there.
they enjoyed lots of beverages. I was like, oh, the chocolate milk, please.
Oh my God. No, thank you.
Anyway, I didn't really drink a lot until I got to
Yeah,
university.
see
then
lots of
I
water in
made
front
up
of you
for
at
it.
this table. So that's very
Mhm.
good.
So this is my only experience. I'm sure for some people it's fantastic. And obviously this is like a Caribbean cruise. There's lots of different types of cruises. It's not just, this is just the most popular one, but I just wanted to share. I will never be going on a cruise again for reasons I will get into now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Rebecca and kind of fill you in on her early life. And so picture one is her. Rebecca Coriam was born on March 11th, 1987. So she's like in our
A year older
stratosphere.
than us. That's
Yeah.
very
Well,
much just basically the same age.
I know. So she's
Yeah.
born in Chester, England. In her youth, she worked at a local zoo and then joined the British Army Cadets when she was in her teens, later attending the University for Sports Science. So just based on those two things, she was a very adventurous person. She was described as having a very bubbly, high-energy personality, and
Mhm.
she was very well suited to the Disney brand. So June 2010, early 20s.
I also love this picture that she has a cat.
Well, she
with her.
was holding a cat,
Mhm.
so naturally that was
Yeah.
the one that I figured I
Yeah.
have to include.
And I figured you
Um,
were going to say she was around our age because I'm like, we definitely all dressed like this.
I
and
had
hair
that-
like
I
this.
had that shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure in the photo of me on the cruise, I have that exact hairstyle with like the
I mean, I
giant
was
bang.
thinking, I was like, this does just look like we jumped to a picture of Megan. Like,
Yeah, this could be any of our high school
Let me just look
photos.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the bangs are and very like flippy, at a very flippy
Mhm.
haircut.
Mhm.
I mean, you
Mhm.
couldn't pay
She
me
looks like
to go
she
back to high
straightened
school
hers with the flat
with the
iron.
flat iron.
Yeah.
I didn't see if she actually had curly hair, but I think even if you had straight hair, you still use a flat
No,
iron.
you still flattened ironed it, yeah.
When I
Yeah.
was in junior
Flattened it.
high, I use an actual clothing iron too.
Yep, that's how I
that was
learned
the
how to
first
do
time I
it.
straightened my hair. Like my friend did it for me, like using a pillow and
Yeah, the young
Yeah.
people don't know. Like they do
No.
not
yeah,
know.
no heat
No.
protector.
No, no.
The
Nothing
hell
in
is
your hair
that?
at all. You watched
don't-
it literally fry and just went,
Yeah.
that'll be fine.
And then you had these awesome like iron kinks.
Marks, yeah. And
Mhm.
at the top, yeah.
I mean,
Such
I
great
say the
times.
good old days. So as I was saying, she was in her early 20s and she went into London and to apply for a job with Disney Cruises, and she got the job. So she was hired as a youth director. She traveled to Florida for training, and she worked her first couple of cruises, heading from Florida to the Bahamas, and that's exactly what I did. I think we left in Miami and we went down to Nassau, Bahamas, and then came back up.
Mhm.
So in early 2011, her new ship would be called the Disney Wonder, and it was based in the port of Los Angeles. So like whole other side of the country for her. And this
Yeah.
cruise would be traveling from Mexico through the Panama Canal. Panama Canal comes up again.
That Panama Canal.
That damn Panama Canal.
Gold Canal.
So picture 3 and picture 4, we have Rebecca, aka Becky, which was
Becky.
my dog's name.
No.
Karina. Sorry.
Aw.
She's referred to as Rebecca in almost every piece of info I could find, but clearly she went by Becky on the ship, and that's
Yeah,
just
they
such a,
had it on her name tag.
such
She
a
definitely went by
cute-
So I
Becky.
assume that's what. Yeah.
it's the same thing of how you go by your nickname because like you're the young fun youth director.
Mm-hmm.
So that's her uniform, and then the ship is below, so that's the Disney Wonder. So while working on this ship, Rebecca was described by all of her Disney coworkers as fun-loving, an upbeat young woman, and a fitness fanatic. She was great with the kids as her role as youth director, and she kept them laughing constantly, which is just such a cute.
Aw.
Like,
Did
how
her
come
smile light up a room?
she was a pillar of
Did
the
she-
community?
The community?
Yes.
No, the
Love
pillar of the
life.
community is always the murderer.
Yeah,
Your
love
smile
life
lighting up
is
the room
the-
means
is
you're
the
How could
victim.
I have forgotten that?
Yeah.
But in general, yeah, she was described as like incredibly
Mhm.
kind and sweet and outgoing, and it's just, I don't know, guys. This story is just
Why
so
can't it
freaking
ever
sad.
just be the asshole that no one's like, yeah, I mean, like,
Well, see, when it
little
happens
lost.
to the asshole, it probably doesn't make news. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
well, he had it coming. When you're not working on a cruise ship, which I had a friend, Sarah, who I think you guys have met her, or at least Chantel has. So she worked on a cruise ship, and you're essentially working the entire time. You'll have some downtime, but you're almost constantly on duty. So even though she was incredibly busy, she was able to find romance on her ship.
Oh, wow.
So Rebecca was casually seeing a woman named Tracy Medley on the ship, and Tracy described their relationship as fiery and passionate, but it was not monogamous.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Tracy, now
On
listen,
whose end?
well, I'm gonna get to it.
Yeah.
So I just want to say really quickly, this is not coming from a place of shame or judgment. I'm just going to explain how it was a very interesting setup here.
Okay.
So Tracy was involved with her on-again, off-again boyfriend who was on the mainland, but she also had a casual boyfriend on the ship.
Okay.
So that could have been like, hey, when I'm on ship, we're doing our own thing, but when I'm back home,
Right.
we're back together. So it could have been open
Because
like
they'd be
that.
on the ship for probably quite a long period.
Yeah,
right?
like weeks and weeks or months even.
There was a show
Mhm.
I watched with Eric. It was like A Secret Life of Cruises or something. I don't know.
Oh.
I forget what it was called. But
Send that to me because Below Deck,
Yeah,
I'm
I
all
will.
caught up, so I need to watch more.
and this is like it, but it's informational. Just like to your point about how they're always working. They have limited time off. Sometimes they have to be on call. So there's like one guy that was responsible for basically the happiness on board.
Cruise
So
director.
you can imagine he just went to take a nap, and then suddenly someone requires cheering up for something,
Oh
so
my
he has to
God.
get up and
What are you, a
fix the
doctor?
problem.
There,
And
there has to be,
Well,
obviously there has to
it's
be
like
laws.
their bags didn't make it, and then has to explain that's
God.
not the cruise's fault that you
Yeah.
got in late.
Yeah.
I can
I
imagine how stressful that would be to have to be always on and available and
I was just
yeah.
thinking, I always love the videos of the passengers that come back to the boat. Like, you'll dock in the morning and you'll have like 8 hours to be on the island or wherever you are. And they say,
Mhm.
come back to the ship at 5 p.m. That's when we're leaving. We're going to leave without you if you're not there. And no one really thinks that they're going to leave.
They're gonna leave, but they
And
do.
they do. So I love
It
watching
Yeah.
showed them
videos of
leaving
people
people
running.
behind because they're like, "We have to leave. You knew, like,
Yeah,
we
they
wait as long as possible, but other ships have to come in and they need to be
exactly.
where we
Yeah.
are, so you're gonna screw up thousands of people."
Yeah, it's just like in planes where it's like they have times, they have to leave at a
Exactly.
certain time because other things have to
Right.
come like,
So
yeah,
they, like, try to
it's
get their passport stuff to, like, a station so that they can get it and get a flight and meet them or
Oh
something.
my
That's
God, it's
like
oh,
such a mess.
wow.
Another
yeah,
reason to not even fuck around with cruises. Just don't do it. Okay, so now back to
back to the story.
Tracy and Rebecca.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so you are young, you are in confined quarters, you're working 24/7.
Mhm.
I personally think it kind of makes sense to open up your relationship so that people can just kind of let off some steam, meet people, have fun, and there's really no pressure.
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine being so young, having a committed relationship, and I don't know, sex relieves a lot of stress and it's fun and the chase, whatever. So it kind of makes sense. Nothing wrong with it, but that was
Mhm.
not really Rebecca's speed. So she was a little more reserved when it came to love. And she had fallen for Tracy, it sounds like, with lots of emotions. And she
Mhm.
would prefer to keep it just the two of them. But Tracy was not interested in that. She cared a lot about Rebecca, but she was like, sorry, I'm not into that. I'll have fun with you, but I'm having fun with my boat guy. And she wanted to keep things open. So it looks like
Mhm.
they were talking about it, but it doesn't mean that Rebecca
But
was.
not on the same page.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like Rebecca would rather.
It's a recipe for
Well, yeah, and it
disaster.
just seems like Rebecca was fairly young, and maybe she was thinking, well, I'll still stick with this because I really care about you. So if that's how you want it,
Well,
I'm
yeah,
willing to
because
deal with it.
we're young and
Mhm.
dumb and we're willing to put up with shit.
And maybe she'll leave him for me, which we've
Mhm.
all thought.
Mhm.
And also, it seemed like that Tracy now is married with kids. As obviously this is a long time ago. It seemed like Tracy was dating both men and women, but Rebecca likely was only interested in women because that kind of came
Okay.
up a little bit, which also adds a whole
Mhm.
nother wrench into it, where she wasn't really interested in seeing men sexually. However, one night, Tracy and her cruise ship boyfriend named Devin, I believe, convinced Rebecca to engage in sexual activity as a group. So it's
Mhm.
the three of
I
them.
was actually gonna ask if that ever crossed over.
It does. And this is a lot of things that you don't know for sure. So
Mhm.
people have said,
Speculation.
yeah, exactly. So and there's a lot of that. So just if I if I say anything, please don't sue me. This is just information I've
Mhm.
read. I'm just gonna say my opinions kind of on top
I'm
of
gonna
it.
sue you, but yeah, okay.
I just said, don't sue me. You have to work on your listening
Right. If you
comprehension.
say
I
"Don't
know.
sue me," then it's legally binding that you just can't.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you
I
can't. You're
declare
right. She's
bankruptcy.
bankruptcy.
Okay, so Tracy claims that Rebecca had sex with Devin while they were all together, and that may have been her first time with a man ever. Because as
Wait,
I
wait.
said,
Tracy or Becky had
no,
sex with
Tracy
Devin?
and this guy, they
Becky.
were having sex the whole time.
Yeah.
But Tracy was saying, Rebecca, come into this
Oh, okay.
relationship with us,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and Rebecca may have had sex with this man
Okay.
in front of Tracy again, because it's kind of the three of
Mhm.
them together.
Mhm.
And like I mentioned, it didn't seem like that was really her thing.
Mhm.
So it just
Maybe
makes
she
me
felt
feel,
pressured into
yeah.
it,
So
is what
and
you're
I'll
saying.
and
Mhm.
again, this is all just me like,
I
but
would do anything
oh
for
God,
love.
I would
That's
not do that.
literally what's happening right here.
So if
Uh,
you are to believe Tracy's account, because again, it's just her word, Rebecca had deep feelings for her and felt that if she couldn't have a monogamous relationship with Tracy, then she would settle for spending time with her however she could,
Mhm.
including sharing the affections back and forth.
That's so sad.
I know it makes me sad. And just when you're so young,
Yeah.
you're like your boundaries
You're
don't
like, "This is
exist.
it. I've met the one."
Oh God.
Like, yeah.
oh, yeah,
So
been there.
separately, I think
Mhm.
we've all been there, especially as women. There were rumors from other shipmates that Rebecca had expressed concern of experiencing sexual assault while on the ship. So, not saying that it had happened, but just she had voiced that was a concern of hers, which again, you're in deep in the, belly of the ship. There's lots of, cameras everywhere. But when you're letting off steam when you're that young, you're probably drinking. Things get out of hand. And I just think that she felt a little unsafe. At least
Okay.
that's what she was
Mm.
expressing. I don't think
Yeah.
she mentioned anyone specifically or that
Mhm.
anything had happened at this point, but just it was well documented when people were being interviewed that she had brought this up. So I think that's important
Okay.
too. Yeah. So keep this in mind when I tell you about her last known morning aboard the Disney Wonder. So in the early morning on March 22nd, 2011, Rebecca may have left the cabin of Tracy's ship boyfriend after having a very uncomfortable sexual experience. So this is from Tracy herself. This is what she said. There's no known official evidence of this, but essentially she engaged with Devin, had sex, and it just really fucked her up, basically, emotionally, just really messed her up because she was more into Tracy, didn't want to do this. She could have kind of succumbed to pressure. It's not anyone's fault per se. Again, we've all
Mhm.
been there where we have done things the whole time not wanting to do it, but also you're taught, just be polite. It's awkward. You're going to ruin it if you put up your boundary.
Yeah, all the
Yeah. All those fun emotions that I think
yeah.
everyone's
Right.
experienced. So she may have felt immense pressure to engage with him. She may have felt fear, guilt, or shame, regret, all these really fun emotions. So
Mhm.
she told Tracy she needed to go for a walk, likely just to kind of clear her head. This was at 5:40 in the morning. That's when she left Devin's cabin or
Damn,
left
okay.
the cabin. Again, there's no
Yeah.
Okay.
so she was clearly upset when she left. So this is what we know at 5:45, so just 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
CCTV footage captured Rebecca using the internal phone line wearing
Mhm.
an oversized man's shirt. She looked very upset, very
Hmm.
distraught. And in the video, another young male coworker is seen walking up to her. And at this point, you can read their mouths from the angle. You can see what they're saying, or you can, you know, relapse.
They're talking to
The
each other.
Yeah, the guy says, "Is everything all right?" And she mouths, "Yeah, fine." So
And
she
who's the
hangs up.
guy?
Just another coworker.
Okay.
He's just a normal, like, he's like, "Hey, are you good?"
Okay.
Because she's on the
Okay, yeah.
phone. She looks
He's
very
not
upset. Mhm.
necessarily he was probably they probably know who he was later.
Yeah, yeah. So he doesn't factor, and it was just someone saw who can
Someone
say
approached, she
A
looked upset,
she
witness.
was
yeah.
Yeah.
upset. At that point, she hangs up the phone, and while she's walking out of frame, she pushes her hair back over her head and then puts her hands in her back pockets. Her parents said that this was a very common like motion for her to do when she was stressed. Everyone has their little things that they do when they're
Mhm.
feeling happy,
Yeah.
sad, whatever. And they said, yeah, that looks like she's upset. That's what she would do when she was stressed out. And this
Mhm.
footage is the last known sighting of Rebecca. And that
Damn.
is photo 4. Those are
So
some
were they
still
docked
images.
somewhere when this happened
They
then?
were in international waters on the way to Mexico.
Oh,
Another reason why I hate
okay.
cruises, I'm going to get into it. So just look
Yeah.
at picture 4,
Mhm.
and this is
This
the
is
last
both
time.
pictures of her.
Yeah, so this is
Can we enhance this?
no. I mean, I'm sure it exists somewhere, but no. So this is from a video that I could not find. I'm sure
Mhm.
like some news company had it, but at this point it's like what, it's
Yeah.
over 10 years old. So these are still images. So at 9 a.m. that day, Rebecca had not reported to the kids area. So that was the start of her shift. And since she was missing, she was paged over the PA system, assuming that she slept in. Like no one knows anything is wrong. Like,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
kids are here to be dropped off. Rebecca's not here. So they check her room, they check all over the ship, they page her, and there was no sign of her whatsoever.
Mhm.
The complication with any disappearance or suspicious activity on a cruise ship can be boiled down to one word: jurisdiction.
Mhm.
So let me
I knew you were gonna
explain.
bring that up when you said international waters.
Oh
Mhm.
my God, you guys. Oh, it's just so freaking scary.
Things are gonna get messy.
Okay, so the Disney Wonder is based in Los Angeles, California, United States,
Uh-huh.
but the head office is in the UK, and Rebecca herself is British. She went missing in international waters near Mexico, and the ship is registered in the Bahamas. So where do you start?
Mhm.
Well,
Who wants it?
naturally,
Well,
since the
I would assume that the British government would want to know what's going on because that's their citizen.
they're
So
certainly interested, but they would not be in charge of the investigation because it has nothing to do with them other than
They
the
they
fact that they're
can't
citizens.
who owns the
investigate.
ship?
Well, this makes
Again,
no
you
sense
just
to
told
me.
me.
So,
Bahamas.
Disney Cruises. So the ship is
Oh,
based
yeah,
in
but it's
LA.
registered in
So it's the
Bahamas.
U.S. that owns the ship.
Yeah, but that's not who investigates. Since the tax registration is clearly most important, that's where the sole investigator comes from, the Bahamas.
Okay.
So 3 days after she's been reported missing. So missing for 3 days. I just
Jesus.
like
And
why
not
don't you
reported for 3 days. Like,
why don't you wait
where
longer?
would she be? Yeah. You know, she's not in her room. She's nowhere to be found.
And
This is
she's
like,
How are alarms not sounding within like 24 hours maximum?
yeah.
Even a
And
few
none of
hours.
people who work with her like know that she would be either
But
in her
she
room or somewhere
so
on the ship.
now no one said, that she was very, very dependable. But I can assume that based on how she was described, that she loved her
Mhm.
job. So if someone's not there at 9, you check the room. Not there,
Mhm.
Mhm.
check who the friends are. Like maybe she drank too much the night before, slept in, like we've all been there. I
Check
would say
every room.
I
Yeah,
would
this
say
is still your
within a
employee. Like, you
few
should be.
hours. Within a few
And
hours, I'd be like,
they're kind of
she's not here.
always on duty when they're on these cruises. So, like, she
Especially
disappeared
like,
while at work.
well, especially somebody must have said, like, yeah, I saw her at 5 in the morning. So you know that she's been on the ship in the point where you're in international waters, which meaning they're not boarded
Yeah.
somewhere. There's nowhere for her to go, and
You're in
she
the
is
open
missing.
ocean.
You're in the open ocean. Your employee was seen last in the open ocean, and she is now missing. And 3 days?
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
I think I may have read this. I can't recall, but I don't think her parents were told for even longer than that.
Oh
Yes.
my
I'm
God.
guessing they
Do
probably
they?
were used to not having frequent communication with her because of her job.
So she did have access to the internet like everyone does on the ship.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was not very frequent, and it was mostly through Facebook just because of, being international and the
Mhm.
cost of calling home back and forth. So, she did miss like a scheduled time to check in, and her parents were concerned. So they right away were like, "This is weird. Like she's supposed to message us, tonight on Facebook. And we were going to chat, and then she didn't."
Mhm.
But you never assume the worst. You
You
just
don't
think,
assume the worst. You're like, oh, she's partying. Something
yeah,
happened.
or maybe
Or
something
Right.
happened to her computer. I don't know, but
Talking to her
Mhm.
parents was on top of her to-do list tonight.
which it seems like it was. But I still just don't think she's a young kid. Like she's in her 20s. You wouldn't immediately
Right.
go to worst case scenario. So let's get back to the investigator. So one man was assigned to investigate the disappearance of Rebecca, Chief
Mhm.
Superintendent of Police in the Bahamas, Paul Roll. He was flown in from NASA on a private plane, and he was in charge of a forensic investigation on a massive ship with over 3,000 passengers and crew.
Easy.
He spent
He can handle it.
1 day on board. He interviewed
What the
What?
six people. 1 day
All
on
right,
board. He
that's not
talked to
even the whole
6 people.
crew. That's not even the whole
Okay.
crew.
And what was his findings?
Yeah, he must have found it a lot.
So it's stuff that I'm sure the crew already knew just by
Mhm.
talking to each other. Because a lot of it, again, is just, well, I heard this, I saw this. But it just seemed like, I get into a little bit, just seemed like they just wanted to wrap this up quickly and kind of move past it. Because there was no in-depth investigation. There couldn't have been. 6
They were just gonna
people,
be like,
1
yeah,
day.
couldn't find her.
Well,
Wrap
well,
this up.
okay, and just you're gonna get even more mad. I'm just gonna have a drink of wine really quick because it's so sad.
Gotta
Okay.
cleanse that palate in between all this badness.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
While that is infuriating, he did interview 2 people who are most likely to see Rebecca last: Tracy, the girlfriend, and Devin, Tracy's boyfriend.
Mhm.
But I mean, like, duh. I feel like the
Mhm.
staff could have done that.
Right.
So, um,
I'm
his
sure they have learned
report.
that from the first person that they spoke to.
Well, and also too, I don't think that Tracy. There was nothing malicious on her side, as far as I know. Obviously, this is a very long time ago. You only hear from her in one article, and the article is more like a tabloid. I do bring that up. It's actually in the next line I mentioned it's a UK tabloid. So
Mhm.
it's not that she's not trustworthy. It's just that the source isn't. great. So you just don't know for sure exactly what happened.
Mhm.
But the report kind of paints that picture, like I think Lindsay, you had said it, or Chantel, that it was a love triangle.
Mhm.
Although, one side definitely wasn't into the other side, but I guess that is a
Mhm.
classic love triangle. More like a love
Yeah.
tent,
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
really.
either way, it makes the same shape.
Mhm. Um, well, yes, I mean the floor. Okay, love tent. When the report was kind of gone through, it was just very clear based on interviews with, I guess the 4 other staff that he talked to, that it was really affecting Rebecca and her mental state. This kind of,
Mhm.
you know, relationship, I guess you can say, with Tracy,
Mhm.
Tracy's boyfriend. So, in a UK tabloid article, Tracy did say that Rebecca was very depressed and had this underlying sadness about her. She said that when Rebecca was being described as, happy-go-lucky and bubbly, she said, "Yeah, maybe, but I could just sense that she was actually, there was a more like this sadness that she always had, and it was more like a mask of being happy she put on." Not that that's not true. It's just one of those things where, I don't know, maybe she knew her better, or maybe she didn't know her at all.
Mhm.
We don't really
But she's
know
implying that
anybody.
she might have taken her own life,
I'm gonna
essentially.
get to that, but that is exactly where this is going.
Mhm.
Uh So that general sadness that Rebecca had that was not confirmed by others, it's hard to know, how close she was with every other staff member or if she had a
Yeah.
small group. But in general,
Mhm.
people disagreed and said that in general she was pretty happy. But
I mean,
she
but, depressed people can cover it.
well,
Like, that's
exactly. So
not
Right.
this is why
yeah.
it's so hard because you don't and she's not here to explain how she felt at this time.
Yeah.
The other crew did explain that recently Rebecca was feeling unhappy and fearing for her safety. And I think that that is going back to this whole love triangle thing. She was
Mhm.
Mhm.
maybe not super into Devin, or maybe there's another man involved, or just who she worked with, who she was not feeling very safe with, and then feeling
Mhm.
unhappy because obviously she has feelings for this woman who is,
Right.
being honest, saying, "Hey, I'm not into, you know, um, being monogamous. I want to kind of be open." And I mean, that
Mhm.
can still fuck you up. And again, small quarters, you're working nonstop. You have no windows. Like you're just gonna be depressed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Uh,
it is I'm not saying, like, everyone does this, but, like, she didn't leave any sort of note behind or
No,
anything to
nothing,
leave for her family that
nothing. And I think I have read this in like
Mm.
some article at some point that that's actually not super common. Like to leave a note is
Okay.
not as common as you think it was,
Fair
which is,
enough.
I mean, that in itself is just really sad. So it
mhm.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean that she didn't do something to herself, but again, you just have no way of knowing. When
Mhm.
her friends, who she had known on the ship, actually went to the UK to visit with her parents after this had kind of gone down, the friends talked to the family about what she was saying, and they were very convinced that some kind of sexual assault had occurred, and that was likely impacting her mental state as well. And then her parents felt even more sure that that was happening because they had later found a pair of shorts in Rebecca's room that were confirmed to be hers, that were described as being torn and ripped up. So it could have been from some
Mhm.
kind of attack. Like you really have no way of knowing. She could
You
have caught it on the
don't.
door. Like
Uh-uh.
you have no way. But it's
Yeah.
just
Right.
something that well, at least it made the parents
It's
feel
the
pretty
things
sure.
start
Yeah, it's
adding up
something to
and it doesn't
question
feel
for
right.
sure.
Yeah. In the report from the Bohemian police investigator, the male crew member interviewed had a very nonchalant attitude. That pisses me right off. When he was being questioned, he was laughing and joking, and the police had to
Oh my
warn
god.
him to take this seriously. And while unnamed, it's implied that it could be Devin. Do not sue me. I'll say it again.
Mhm.
It's implied that it was likely the guy that she was involved with. So, like, that makes me just.
Yeah.
And I don't know this to be true. This is just, we have a report, unnamed male, and then
Right.
we know Devin. So I'm just kind of putting two and two together. But anywho,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, when
So
you don't even act respectful towards
someone is fucking missing in open
right.
water, and you're going to laugh and joke about it? Like, holy shit, man. Like, no
Like,
empathy
there's
whatsoever.
something wrong with you.
Big time.
Which, like you said, it could make you question, like, why are you acting this way?
I mean, or he could just be a sociopath and he had nothing to do with
Right.
it
Like, you
and
don't,
he just doesn't care.
that's
But
true.
also, I just want to say really
But
quickly, no one's
someone
ever
so
been
callous, like, you're like, "Okay, could
he's
you
never
just do
been
something like
named.
this and
Just
not
want to say he's
care?"
never been named.
Or
No one's ever been arrested. So like there is
right,
no
just
evidence
speculating.
whatsoever, just speculation. I just don't like it at all.
It doesn't matter
Right,
who
at
that
the
person was either. It's a fucking weird way to act about somebody that's missing and
Very.
potentially dead.
right,
And
at
there's
the
even
Even
bare
if it's not
minimum,
him.
it's
yeah.
really disrespectful and makes me think there's something wrong with you to act that way about someone
Yeah,
missing.
yeah.
Because we don't know
A
what
colleague of
happened.
yours too, like
Yeah,
someone
we
you
don't know
work
what
with.
happened to her. So there's no evidence whatsoever that it was foul play. But for you to act like that, just like you're just not a good
Yeah.
person in
No,
general.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So if something happened to the crew cabin that night or a different night, there's a couple theories about what could happen. Two are very obvious, and then we have a third. Uh, I don't want to say insane theory. Anyway, I'll get to it. Theory one: she felt pressure to engage in sexual activity way outside her comfort zone and boundaries. And then, like I
Mm.
said, she may have felt intense shame, guilt, regret. She could have been depressed. This could have compounded this.
Mhm.
And there was a crew area. There's a pool that was kind of hidden from view, that other, guests couldn't see, but it was for the crew. And there was an area where, while the walls were really tall, you could climb up on this certain wall. You could sit on the edge, and at that point, you could have slipped off and fallen into the water. Like, it was not that hard to get up there. Or she
Mm.
could have intended to get off the ship in that way.
And
There's
there's no
no
cameras in that
there
area?
is no cameras in that area.
Mm.
Um, but it is
How many cameras
possible.
are even on this ship that this is the last footage that they
That
have?
comes up too. There's cameras freaking everywhere.
So how did she miss all of them? Was that
Yeah, you would at least
intent?
feel
That
like
almost
you'd
seems
have some more.
intentional.
So there
Or
wasn't a
are they one of those ones where they
They
retape
weren't
over
actually
themselves in a certain amount
on,
of
or
time?
yeah,
so that
because
has
they
not
waited
come
3
up.
days.
Okay, so there's
Mhm.
I'm gonna get to a few of them, but there's cameras everywhere, and I think I mentioned a little bit later, but there was an article written in, oh my God, was it 2011 or 2013? But a journalist from the Guardian, which is the UK newspaper, went on the exact same boat on the exact same cruise time and just talked to a bunch of people. He got a lot of info. So he was walking around the ship, and he thought that it was very likely if she left the boat over the side, because you cannot get off a ship
Mhm.
without showing ID. Like, there's no way. You'd have to
Mhm.
physically jump off a side. The
Mhm.
only way that was fairly easy was there was a running track, I guess. I forget what track it was, but probably way near the top. And that was the only spot that had low enough walls that you could potentially, like, if maybe the ship rocked a little bit, but that was the only way that, he thought.
Mhm.
However, the CCT footage I'll talk about later that captured her, she was nowhere near that.
Okay.
So it just didn't make
Mm.
So she would have had
sense.
to probably cross a lot of other cameras to even get to that point.
Yeah, I think that there'd
Mhm.
be more evidence. Um,
I mean, maybe
a-
there are more, like, there's extra footage of her, but this is just kind of the last known one, right? Is that
Nothing's ever been really released.
But maybe they
So,
can't.
so
Maybe they're
in
building a
this,
case and they gotta hold stuff.
there is no
yeah, but
case.
they'd be, like, usually some updates. It's been, you said, a decade or more?
It's a more than
Was it
that.
2011? Is
Yeah.
that the year?
And so we're way past that. So
Yeah.
near the staff pool area with a wall where, again, someone could climb up. So that was a potential area. There was, okay, it's called a sandal, a slipper, or a flip flop. So I don't think it's because everyone's from different countries and we all call it different things, but it was like some kind of summertime shoe, a casual
Mhm.
summertime shoe. So I think it was a flip flop. There was one found there, just one. So that was all of a sudden like, well, that's evidence that's her shoe. It was never confirmed to belong to Rebecca, and in fact, nearly everyone who was asked about said it was not hers. It wasn't even her size, let alone her style.
Okay.
So it was just a shoe.
Okay. So that's just a red herring? Like,
Okay,
Yeah.
what the
I
so
fuck?
mean, lots of people probably lose shoes on cruise ships. Like,
if
Yeah.
I've ever lost a shoe, it's because
unlimited
one of them broke,
drinks.
and then yeah, well, I mean that's happened to me at least twice.
Yeah.
One shoe is down, so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna kick off both
I don't
shoes
need
now.
this one. Yeah.
So theory two, and this is the one that I think we're all going to kind of lean towards. Um, so going back to that, there could have been some kind of a sexual assault or similar activity that caused regret. Perhaps the person involved was at risk of Rebecca reporting it. So that to
Mhm.
me would be
Mm.
motive. So she could have been injured or incapacitated and then physically removed overboard. So that's my opinion.
But even then, like, there should be footage of
Yeah.
people
There
going
should be
past
footage.
and going somewhere. Like, this seems like
Mhm.
alien abduction. Like, I don't understand why
Well,
there's no
listen,
footage.
you're gonna love theory 3 then.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Lindsay. What are you gonna say?
Oh, tell us theory 3 if you want first, then I
Well,
can.
you're gonna hate it. Theory 3. Disney claims that a rogue wave washed Rebecca overboard.
No, I don't believe that.
No.
Well, because it didn't happen.
They'd have to already have evidence that there was a storm. Like, a rogue wave doesn't just,
and
like,
there
come.
is no evidence. The height of the walls makes that impossible. The weather
Right.
conditions make that impossible.
When
And there
somebody
is
had to
no
clean it up?
evidence. There's,
Yeah,
well,
Yeah,
there's
somebody
no
would have had to
evidence.
clean it up. Like,
What, like mop the
just
deck
don't even
quickly?
bother suggesting anything.
I believe an alien over a rogue wave.
I know. I
but,
thought you were gonna go with aliens. To be honest, that would have
No,
made
'cause,
more
I mean,
sense.
Honestly, at this case, it does. Because even though, no one
I
has
just can't
come
get
out.
past the footage. Like, I
know.
just can't.
Well, and I'll mention that in a little bit, and you're going to
That
be
part
mad again.
is the
perfect.
hardest to, because I want more information. I want to know
Mhm.
when was the last time. I will say in the footage, in the one photo, like, she has her head in her hands.
She looks
looking
upset.
distressed, and like her family said, she was, had her hands in her back pockets, like something
Yeah.
she did when she was stressed out. I want more evidence, but I could see a world where maybe she did find a way to take her own life.
People have
Yeah,
done
she's
that.
that distraught.
I know.
Like, she has maybe been potentially sexually assaulted, or pushed to do
Maybe
things she
they were
didn't want to
threatening
do,
her.
or something happened during that interaction that just put her over the edge.
Mhm.
I think
It's just,
sometimes people who are younger too,
I know.
she's what, like early 20s, like little things can feel like the end of the world when you're younger. Even when you're older too, but I think when you
Mhm.
are younger, you take that in, and it really can affect you deeply. So she could have been really going through something.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
she
it is
could
very
very well have been very
possible
depressed.
that
Like,
she might have done that. I want more
Yeah,
information, of course,
I
but
know.
yeah, and like you said, like, there could be all of that, and somebody could be threatening her on the other end. She could feel like she has
Mhm.
nowhere to go with that
Right.
information. Like, you don't know how people are gonna
Yeah,
internalize certain
exactly.
things.
Like, based off what we've seen, though, I wouldn't close the case and say that's for sure the
No.
answer.
And I think
Which
that
seems to
that
be, like, what
that's
they're
part of
trying to
it.
do,
Well,
is
because,
just,
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, I want an easy answer to this so that
I
we
think
can
that
Mhm.
just
most
put that
people
in the closed file."
most have
Mhm.
either felt depressive and had like depressive periods or episodes. Like, I certainly have. I do not have
Mhm.
clinical depression, and we have no idea if Rebecca did, or if she was
Mhm.
experiencing something and she was just such a good masker where no one really knew. And especially if you don't have close friends and you're just kind of work colleagues and you have fun and you drink, if no one knows you deeply, maybe they would never know because they don't know you well
Mhm.
Yeah.
enough. So it's hard to say, but if she did or didn't, two things keep coming back. There, like you guys are, I mean, we're all agreeing, there would be some more footage. Like, this
Mhm.
isn't
Mhm.
Disney. You think Disney doesn't have a camera on everyone in that place?
Yep.
And the fact that the investigation was a business day, I find that wild.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm kind of surprised that the British government didn't step in at some point, because, like, the lengths that they, US, I assume Britain, hopefully Canada, would go to get their citizens justice.
So I don't get
You'd
into it
think.
because it was very heavy, but yeah, they did. Like, they were in court for years and years and years trying to
Okay.
get as much
Okay.
info as possible. But it's one of those things where when you're in international waters,
Mhm.
like, it's just there's a lot.
It really
Ugh,
makes things muddy and
don't go on a
hard to
cruise.
hard to know, right?
Okay, it's gonna
Ugh.
get even worse. So I'm sorry. So
Oh.
Rebecca's parents were brought to the ship in the
Mhm.
weeks after her disappearance, and Disney was very careful to curate their visit, and they stuck to their story of it was a rogue wave, and that was the likely culprit for her disappearance.
Jesus, I wanna punch
Um,
Disney in the face right now.
You don't
Lindsay
have footage of her
always
on the deck or
no,
anything
it
like
just doesn't
that.
make any sense.
You
You
think
have
that
Ra-
also a camera would have picked up
weather
the rogue wave?
records. Or again, there was a
Well,
man.
roadways don't have to be weather related.
There
That's why
was
they're
a
called
man that was
roadways.
talking
But
to
still,
her.
I thought they happen though when there's already like waves happening, and a rogue wave is one that comes like an extra huge wave that comes out of nowhere.
That's how I.
It's not gonna be calm seas and suddenly
well,
like
then what is
no,
it
that's
called
not
when
gonna
there are those?
happen.
Because there are those. That's why they say don't even go to Peggy's Cove on the rocks,
That's the
even if it's
undertow, I
calm.
think.
Well, okay, now, but
It's
Pecky's
not so
Cove
much
always has waves. And I think what Lindsay's
right, and
saying, and I think
some
this is a
can
rogue
come in.
wave, is that there's little waves, and then there's some that are almost from underneath, and it's like normal wave, but then there's enough pressure that then a big one comes. So it's not
Yeah.
calm
It's
seas
not
and a
like
wave
calm seas
comes
and
out of
then
nowhere.
out of nowhere this big
Well, I
wave
mean, but
comes
doesn't the
up.
sea always kind of have a little bit of waves though as well? Like, so couldn't it just happen from not necessarily weather related? I'm just
I think
trying
if
to.
it's calm waves, you're not getting a 30-foot wave out of nowhere.
Unless it's like a
Fair.
tsunami wave, in which
It's
case.
more like, hey, you've had 5 to 10-foot waves, and then that 35-foot wave comes out of nowhere. We can investigate this
I'm
further,
sure we
but
will.
I
I'm sure
think
we
it.
will.
We should
And
do
with
an
Peggy's
episode
Cove,
on.
like the waves may be splashing up on the rocks, but at any moment a bigger wave could come along, and that's why you have to stay back past that line.
Stay
There's a
off
lot
the
of
black rocks.
people
So
have been
yeah, then there
taken.
should be some weather related something
And there
that they
Right, I would
can
wasn't.
expect
base off of.
some sort of storms, even if some documentation
Or
that the seas were rough.
Or
right?
even somebody to have said that. You think that anybody that has a cabin on that side would have seen their entire window be drenched in water at some point
Right,
randomly.
and like to Megan's point that like how tall the ship is, and it
Yeah,
just
how tall
wouldn't be
is the
really
ship?
possible.
That's a great question
With this
that I will
picture of
find
it
out
that we
later.
have, it does
Yeah, but
look
I'm just
very
wondering how
high
many
out of the
feet it
water.
is.
That's fair. We could add that in.
I mean,
Add
like
that in.
obviously
But
the ship is not like a normal sailboat where it's very low to the water line, right? Clearly.
Right.
But keep this in mind that if her confirmed last sighting was between 5:40, 5:45, let's just round that up to 6. And then 9 a.m. she's not at work. So that's a 3-hour window where no one can see her. In 3 hours, especially from 6 to 9, like people are awake. There's staff that are probably cleaning, setting up. There could even be, guests that are getting the coffee. Who knows? But someone would have been like, "Oh yeah, there was a crazy wave that hit the ship." Like there's none of that. Like so that just
Right.
didn't happen. This is just Disney trying to clean up as fast as possible.
Yeah.
It gets a little more.
They're known for make believe over
dicey.
at Disney, so
Yeah, I
Oh,
know that's fair.
God,
Oh,
that's dark.
yeah.
sorry.
No, I mean like
it's perfect.
if it's not you, it's me or Chantel. So. In early May of the same year, 2011, just a few weeks after her parents had returned home, her bank sent them an email saying that someone was trying to gain access to her bank accounts on April
Oh.
19th. So it's like a month after she went missing.
Okay.
And this is
And
a
they
quote.
weren't able to get all her belongings when they were there.
Well, I'm going to cover that right now.
Okay.
The fact that her credit card's been used could only mean that someone has stolen it or she's still alive, said Mike Coriam, Rebecca's father. He told us to a British newspaper. The card was not among her possessions. So that could have been opportunity. Someone just
Now,
knew
I
she was
would
missing.
actually, I think it's very possible that someone's like, hey, she's been missing. I'm going to raid her room.
That's what I'm
and see if she
thinking
has any
happened.
money. She hasn't been there. So the staff must have been someone that something was up.
That's still
Especially if
so
it's been
fucked
3
up.
days.
Oh
It
yeah, that is
fucked
so
up.
fucked up.
I'm
But
just saying
criminals are
someone-
normally
I think
opportunistic, so
the odds that she's alive somewhere using it, unfortunately, is probably low, which is sad to say for her family. But I'm thinking likely is that someone went into her room to look for her. I was like, oh, I don't see her.
It's
but
someone who has
zing, take that credit
no
card.
moral compass whatsoever and just thought,
Right, and they figure they waited
Yeah,
long enough
long
that it's going to
enough.
be not an issue. Or
oh my God.
I mean, they should be able to track who made a purchase and where they're sending it.
Is there no
right?
CCTV footage of this?
Well, if the card left the ship and went somewhere else, I think at this
It could have
point
been someone assigned to look for her in her room too, so they might have had a reason to be in there. They're not going to have cameras in her room.
No,
So
what
it's
I'm
very-
saying is that like the person that made the transaction somewhere, like is there no footage of where the bank would know where the
Right.
transaction was?
True. I know. I
They
was
would
thinking
be able
like
to
such
call the
I'm
store
thinking
and find out
2024.
who
I was like,
did
it's an
this.
online purchase.
yeah,
Yeah.
this wasn't like given up
This
to
wasn't
the public, so
right.
it gets a little bit sadder.
Especially, like, let them use it again. Like, that like, let them get away with the first one. If you can't catch the
Yeah.
first time, let them try to use it again
Well,
Follow
and
them.
see.
I'm
Mhm.
wondering if the cards weren't already canceled, and then that's why the card got a little notification. The card could have been already canceled, and then it's like, oh, someone tried
Mhm.
to use it. So I
Yeah.
don't really know. But like nothing's ever
Yeah.
been provided to the public. It's
Yeah.
all very like wrapped up already. Like it's fucked.
Mhm.
In September, an uncle of Rebecca said that the password to her Facebook account had been changed, and he did not know by whom.
Okay, so
I
he
just
had
don't.
access, though, to her Facebook?
Again, like that's all that I know.
Hmm.
It's weird.
Mhm.
It is
It is.
weird.
It's incredibly sad, but I just don't think that Rebecca is alive.
Yeah.
It breaks
Mm-mm.
my
No, I don't
heart
think
that
so.
her friends and family, at least at that point, were still thinking. Because of course, you want to think that. You want to think that there's some kind of magic way that she left the boat, but is still,
Well,
Right.
because even
around
if she was
somewhere.
trying to, like, escape the situation, I don't think she would try to escape her family. Like, let's say she was trying to stealthily get off the boat so that she didn't have to say anything,
Mhm.
maybe she did feel threatened, blah, blah, blah. I think then her first thing would have been calling her family. Like, it sounds like
Yeah.
she was close with her family, there's no issues
Yep.
there. So
Right.
why would it just
And
be like, "Oh,
they're
I disappeared and I used my card 1 month later?" That doesn't make sense. And
once
I'm
they get to a
assuming none of her
port, she could
belongings were taken.
deboard. Like,
Well, and she did not.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, because you cannot leave a boat without being checked by
Mhm.
multiple
right.
people because it involves a passport situation.
I mean, maybe she has a contract, she'd have to break it or something, but I don't know.
I think that it's very clear that she certainly left the boat that morning, and it's whether or not it was by her own decision or by someone
Yeah, because at
else's.
some point, even, like, later on, they would have found her
Yeah.
body
And
by
it could also
now.
have been an accident. Like, so how Tracy was describing it, that she said where the staff pool is, where that wall is,
Mhm.
there could have been a way for her. It's kind of like when you're feeling down, you just want to touch grass. You just want to have fresh air, be by yourself, nature. So she
Mhm.
could have climbed up to sit down to just think and just have,
If
you
it's
know,
something that they were known to do.
and
Mm.
I didn't come across that, but Tracy seems to think that she may have done that to almost feel like she wasn't on this boat, this
Mm.
tiny, soul crushing boat where she's seeing the same people every time. That could have been a way for her to feel like I'm out by myself and just think,
Yeah.
and then
Mhm.
I just think
something could have
about
happened.
motive, like, that's why I kinda lean towards that she
It
maybe
could have been
either
intentional on
accidentally
her
or
own. Yeah.
intentionally took her life, is because what is the motive for someone to do it? Like, to steal her credit card?
So
To, like,
no, I
commit
I I think
murder?
I think that the
Like,
credit card was
No, to
just
hide a crime,
I
likely.
think it's just a red herring, almost like someone
oh
knew
yeah,
she
no,
was missing, took advantage of it, swiped the
I don't
card.
think the credit card has anything to do with it. I just think
No, no,
it's
no.
it's just shitty. I
Mhm.
think that worst case scenario, she was feeling pressured by someone to do something she didn't want to do, or she was taken
Or
advantage
was
of.
already pressured into doing
Yeah.
something
And
she didn't
and
want
she
to.
was thinking like, this is not okay. I'm going to tell on you. I'm going to call the police, whatever it was. And that person did that, removed Rebecca from the equation to not get in
Mhm.
trouble.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
Yeah.
worst case. And
Yeah.
then another likely is that either, it was an accident, that she was trying to get some like mental clarity, have a breath, just be by herself, and she fell, or
Mhm.
she was depressed and no one really knew, and she had all these big feelings and no one was aware of how bad it was, and she made a decision that,
Mhm.
to end her
I
life.
just really need you to get to, why is there no fucking camera footage? This is bothering me. It's in the back of my brain. It will not stop.
I know, I really
This
wanna
doesn't
see
make
that
any sense
too,
to me. It
like,
makes zero sense to me.
So there's a part coming up that, I mean, it's bad.
there's more?
Yeah. Um, okay, I'm just gonna get to it now. The Coriam, so her parents, hired a former Scotland Yard specialist turned private investigator named Roy Ram, which I think is a cool name, Roy Ram.
Mhm.
His job was to figure out what happened to their daughter, since it seemed that Disney and the PME police had done the bare minimum and
Jack
then
shit.
just stopped. Yeah. He did a lot of great work, and a lot of his findings I used in the telling of the story. And here's the big one. Oh my God. You guys don't even know. He discovered that the CCTV
Mm.
footage that we've been talking about, where she's using the phone right before she disappeared, had been cropped to hide the timestamp and the location.
What? What do you mean?
So, according to Disney,
So the photos that you have shown us with her in the hallway and
we
her
don't even know
head
what
in
time
her
that is
hand.
anymore. We don't even know what time that is anymore or where it is officially. So according to Disney, that footage was shot inside on deck 5 near where Rebecca was allegedly swept overboard. But after viewing the undoctored copy of the footage, Ram and other investigators learned that it was actually shot on deck 1, not close at all to the vicinity of where Rebecca allegedly had her accidental death. So all the things that they were saying to the family about the footage and where it was, none of that was true.
Okay.
So when was it?
Yeah.
Well, time-wise, they don't say, but they say it was on deck 1. So it wasn't
That's
even
lower
in the
deck,
spot.
I assume. I assume it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as you go up.
That would make sense, yeah.
I don't know. It could be the opposite.
So
But
why they're lying about that, I would have no idea.
I assume deck 5 would be higher because they said she fell
I would assume
overboard.
that too.
And it probably
But
fit their narrative more.
that's the only reason why they would lie about it is to
Mm.
fit their narrative.
And they're probably thinking, well, there you are. All right, bye. Like you
that
have
was
your,
a terrible accident.
all
What
the
a
evidence
tragedy.
you're gonna get. Right.
In the end, the Coriams did settle with Disney out of court in 2015.
Ugh,
So
I
there
feel
is
so
no
bad for them.
active case. It's considered closed. John Ronson wrote a fantastic article for The Guardian. So this is what I mentioned back in, I think it was 2013. And a lot of his info I used for the story. He was the investigative journalist that went and interviewed all kinds of staff and, checked out the ship for himself.
Mhm.
So from his work, I have some quotes from former Disney crew members regarding Rebecca's disappearance. Disney knows exactly what happened. That phone call she had, it was taped. Everything here is taped. There is CCTV everywhere. Disney has the tape. Someone must know something. Someone's covering something up.
Oh my God.
This is just people's impressions.
Okay, well
But
now I'm like
I would
starting to
believe them.
change
I
my
know.
mind a little bit because if they had evidence that she has taken her own life, then that's easy enough to be like, look, she was depressed, she took her own life.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the evidence.
Evidence,
Done.
yeah.
And especially
But
from
the
a
fact that you
corporation
have
standpoint, if someone of their own
Right.
volition does something and they,
they could be
yes,
absolved of any
Because
anything,
that's probably
right?
that sounds like that's probably the biggest issue is that Disney doesn't want to be seen as bad and like somebody
Mm.
an employee murdering another employee
really bad.
probably would be the worst of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now
Well, now I changed my
So-
mind again.
I don't even know what to think because,
I
You
don't
know-
think it's aliens.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
there's-
aliens.
the truth is out there.
Not a rogue wave. Because if it was a rogue wave, you had the evidence.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the most ridiculous thing to stick to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Because
really
that,
was.
It's
that,
crazy.
that is the easiest to disprove, really. If she
And
went
you
somewhere
would
in a
have
staff
like
area where there's no
policies
camera,
too, and
well,
things like, all right, how long do we keep footage? And
Yeah, because like there's lots of places where their footage will retape over within 48 hours. So that's why I thought maybe the footage is just
Mhm.
missing. Because
I-
that happens all the time where
Yeah,
it's like
Right.
I mean,
feel like in this
even in
case-
hospitals, in places where I've worked, where we have
Mhm.
footage, it's like it's taped over within 48 hours. So if something major happens, we have to tell them right away so that they can take
Yes,
the
they
tapes
get
and make
it.
sure that it's not
And
taped over.
I think that they have the footage. I think that if by 9
Yeah.
p.m. they were like, this is weird, she's not here, that likely by the end of that day, they were checking footage to see
But
where
that's what
she
I mean.
was.
Like
Yeah.
even something like that, where you could say something like that, be like, yes, it wasn't done for 72 hours and it taped over. But like this whole, I don't know, it's all so rogue wave.
I'm just surprised that they can't demand Disney release these. Like
you
when you
don't
go to
even
court,
know
you
if
have
you
if you have
technically
evidence, don't you have the right to request everything that
The police
like the
do.
defense would have?
But like
right?
it sounds like the police didn't even want to go to court. Like they're not doing anything over it. These are the parents that are just saying like we want something
Again,
done.
maybe it's all related to, like you said earlier, with the international waters, like
I
the
think that's a
jurisdic-
huge point.
jurisdiction.
Because I
Mhm.
know
Um,
that the UK government was trying to work with Disney to get the footage. I don't
Mhm.
think that they were able to get it. And I think that
Yeah.
Disney
But
can
they should be dealing
say,
with like a U.S. company. They should have like it should be maybe easier.
just
I
don't
I
go on a
guarantee
cruise.
I'm sure like the Bahamas investigation team isn't as well financed as like the British team would be or the USA team because they have
Mhm.
so
I
much
know
more
it's
money.
just one of those things where it's kind
but-
of like, anywhere where there's an island, there's probably not as much tax money going into because it's all like a tax haven. I'm talking out of my
Mm.
ass. I have no idea. But a lot
Mhm.
of if the residents aren't paying a lot in taxes, that is what funds the police, you know?
Mm.
And I still
Mhm.
think that
Unless there's
these offices
something
are going to
else
have
on
tons of
the
cash.
footage that they're like, "Hey, like, it's nothing to do with her per se, but there's something on here that we can't share because 'cause it'll, like, you know, give evidence to something else that we don't want you to see." I don't know.
Something illegal.
Oh,
or or
that's
the
also a
or
fair
the or the
point.
cop from the Bahamas could have seen footage and
Mm.
thought, I mean, this is nothing. He's one person who looked at it one time and then deemed not important. Like
Yeah.
we have no idea. We have no way of knowing. And that's
Yeah.
the thing, the part that everyone is so upset is that not only is a young woman likely dead and
Mhm.
missing, but there's no information. And, if someone is
Mm.
hiking and they're missing, that almost makes more sense. But you're
Mhm.
on a ship in the middle of nowhere, and everything on that ship is designed to keep you safe and from doing the exact
Right.
opposite of what likely happened to her.
And her
So
family is living with the fact that they'll never
we'll never know for
know
sure what happened
likely
to
what
her.
happened, and
I also still find it a little bit weird that there's no real, like, people that saw her except for that one person. Like, I
Mm.
realized it was early in the morning, but like you
Yeah.
said, there's
But
thousands of
staff's
people on this
always
ship.
working, they're always doing things, they're
Yeah.
prepping for breakfast probably by
Like,
5:30.
you're telling
Now,
me that nobody else saw her at any point?
apparently she was in like a staff area because on every single deck, there's going to be sections that guests will never see because of the way the ship's
Yeah,
designed, right?
we
So
call it in the
Mhm.
hotel, we called it,
back
we
of
were the
house or
mice in the walls because it
oh,
was all, like, within the walls that we would go through these back
exactly.
passageways to get around, yeah.
Mm.
So because it was early, maybe she was in a spot where there weren't many staff yet, and that one younger guy confirmed that he saw her, confirmed that she looked very distressed, asked if she was
Mhm,
okay, and then left. And I believe that that's the last time anyone saw her. Because if someone else
mhm,
had seen her, even at 5:55 or 6 or something,
Yeah.
I think that would have come out because it would keep painting the picture that she was highly distressed, which maybe gives you some insight into her mental state, and that would fit with their theory of she may have done this to herself.
mhm.
So I feel like if
Mhm.
there was more that the staff would have said, because it sounds like clearly the staff think that something else was going on and it's out of their hands.
Right.
Yeah.
So to this day, Rebecca Coriam has never been found. And despite a few unconfirmed sightings, literally all over the world, which is just heartbreaking, it's most likely that she did in fact die that day in March 2011. Since the year
Well,
2000, 43 people have vanished from Carnival cruises. Carnival actually holds
Just
the title.
Carnival.
Just Carnival, yeah.
43?
43. They hold the
oh my
title
god.
of the most missing people over every other cruise company. And
Wow.
in total, all cruise companies since 2000, there have been 200 people reported missing while in open international waters. That's about 8
That
people a
number is
year.
way higher than I would have thought.
Yeah.
That's so scary. All right. Definitely not. And Megan, it's amazing you survived this cruise you went on back in 2005.
I think it's because I was with my family 24/7 because I was like an 18-year-old girl. If I was like doing my own
Yeah.
thing, I don't
I
know.
would have been terrified to like take you on this
So
cruise.
when
Yeah, right?
considering your next vacation, perhaps skip the cruise, stick to dry land. And this is the incredibly sad and frustrating story
Yeah.
of Rebecca Coriam.
Well,
Well, thanks for starting my Friday night off right.
nice and
It's just
sad.
she is
I think I'm
literally
drinking wine
she would
already.
be our age, and
I
her
know, that's
family has
so
Yeah.
no idea
sad.
what happened to her.
So 2011, so what, she was, how old were we
Well, she was
then?
born in 87,
Yeah, she
7,
was
so
early
she would
20s.
be
23?
almost 38
24.
now, but
You're
yeah,
a
she would
little
have
Her
she's a
little
little itty
child.
bitty
yeah,
baby.
she would have been 23 or 24. Mhm.
So
Damn.
okay, so theories. So I'm thinking that someone did this to her. Is
Yeah,
what I'm thinking.
I feel like Devin and Tracy had something to do with it. I don't wanna say that Tracy didn't because if you're
Honestly, until you
if
told
you're
me
with a
that they
guy like
have
that,
footage that they didn't, that they have specifically withheld, Until
Or
then, I thought,
not withheld because they gave the footage, but they tried to curate the date and or not date time, but the
Mm.
location and the
Yeah, that's
time.
so weird. Like, it
So
definitely that definitely tells me
what's
it's
the
employee on
reasoning?
employee, and they did not want that out in the news. Because that would be really bad for
mm,
the press for
Yep,
them, for
right.
Disney.
The
So,
fact that they did that does make me change my initial thought about her
oh,
potentially
yeah.
taking her
don't
own life, but it's yeah, I'm like, why would you doctor it? If
don't
there's no
go on
reason to.
TikTok because they show all kinds of things about what it's like working for Disney and working at Disney World and working at Disneyland
Oh
and the
my
shit
god.
that they put their employees through. Like, I would not be.
I should ask my boss because he used to work at Disneyland.
Yeah, apparently if you were, like, one of the people that had to dress up, it was, like, really fucked up a lot of the
Yeah,
times.
he was goofy.
People loved it, but, like, they also were like, it was yeah, anyways, it's a whole
Are you
TikTok
guys
rabbit hole.
watching Squid Games?
No.
No.
Guys,
I
it's
I
really
know.
don't
good.
have time in my life to add it in at right now,
I
I don't
know.
think.
Okay, but I'm just telling
I
you
gotta
that
research my next topic.
okay, but when you have time, the show in
Yes.
general is really, really good. And in season 2, there is an element where it's like a Disneyland-esque where there's, characters and the big heads and oh, we're all so happy. And there is a woman who is like fucking going through it. She is going through a lot. But when you are in character, like she's really happy and she's so sweet little kid and
Oh.
then takes the helmet off and it's like depressive as shit. Everyone's sweating.
Mm.
It just kind of shows like, yeah, like that's that the illusion is that oh, it's the happiest place on earth.
Mhm.
Maybe for you, but maybe not for the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Well, I
guess
wanted to go on a cruise, so I guess
the
that's
big
out.
takeaway is just don't go on a cruise. Like statistically,
Right.
you're gonna be fine. But if something
I
were to happen,
yeah.
if
I
so-
would be happy
if
to
something were to
go
happen,
on, there's like in Chicago, it's
Oh.
called the Playpen. There's lots of yachts and stuff on the water.
Mm.
that kind of
People just
sounds
hang out on
cool.
them. I do not obviously have a yacht.
Yet,
Nor do I know anyone with a yacht yet. But hopefully one day I make the acquaintance of someone who invites me out. So
well,
I think you can rent things. I think you can like pay people probably to let
well,
you go
that's
on the
what
boat
all
for
the
the
rich
day.
Oh,
But
yeah,
people do. They
you
just
can, like,
rent it
rent
and
yachts
say,
down here and stuff like that too,
yeah.
but it's, those keys, I'm gonna murder you. Um
"I'm just sending you the I'm sending you the sheet, so I
That's
often
what I
forgot."
want to do. Like I want to be like, I see the land. We're not going far. We're just hanging out for the day.
Just
I won't
have
lie, I do wanna
have
go
the
on a
yacht
cruise.
moored. Okay,
I think an
girl.
Alaskan cruise would be really fucking cool. My aunt and uncle have gone on lots and lots of cruises, and, like, they loved it. They loved
Alaska does
cruises.
sound interesting, but I'd
Right?
have to know the stats of murders up
I
there
believe that
for
On the
there is a
Alaskan cruise, we'll find
there,
that one.
there's literally a
okay.
case that was mentioned in this one where someone went missing on an Alaskan cruise. So,
But
Okay.
don't you
Well,
have to go
if
through
we
the
ever
Drake's
went, we'll have to hold hands the entire time.
and the
yeah.
Drake's Pass is
Oh,
just
we
way
don't
down south.
leave
So,
each other oh, yeah, we don't leave each other's sites at
Yeah.
all. It's like we're not
Exactly. If I've
it's
used the
not
bathroom, you're
happening.
all coming. You're all
yes,
Oh,
coming.
yeah. Well, yeah, because
one inside, one
I mean,
outside.
3
Exactly.
females alone on a cruise together, that just is like the plot of a
Mhm.
However,
murder mystery.
we are beautiful yet weird. So
Weird. I
men would
think the weird will
approach
keep us
and then
safe, hopefully.
yes, exactly. They're gonna back away.
Like that video I sent in our chat that reminded me so
Yeah.
much of Chantal, where she just
Oh, with
puts on a
the
mask
the
and she walks
mask.
around the streets acting all crazy. Like how to keep yourself safe at night.
That's how Chantel
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Okay,
it.
so we're gonna leave you here. And if you have any other ideas for cruise ship mysteries or disappearances, we have a couple.
Mhm.
But if you know of a story that maybe isn't
Yeah.
as well known, please let us know because I
Even
think
crazy
Mhm.
cruise ship stories. We want to start. We know the cruise ship topic is a gold mine of
Yeah.
crazy stories and things we could share and talk about. And
like if you've worked on one, if you were a guest on one.
yes.
And also during COVID, as you recall, there was all kinds of insane things with cruise ships being docked and
Oh my
quarantined,
gosh.
and
Yeah, I think people who were on a cruise ship during COVID, like when it hit,
they
Mhm.
couldn't get off, and there was a poop thing.
Yeah,
right?
I worked with a girl who couldn't get off her cruise, actually.
My aunt was supposed to go
At
on a
some
cruise
point.
just before COVID hit. I'm really glad she did not board.
For many reasons, but
Yeah.
also to be
Oh,
stuck on one.
it would have
Okay,
been
so
nightmare.
if
I
you're
read a book
listening,
about a person that goes actually, it's really good. It's called
missing.
Cabin 10. It's
Is it
it's a
real?
small cruise. It's like no, it's like
Oh,
it's this book about this like
Is it
luxury
a
cruise where it
nonfiction
has
book?
no, it's a fiction book.
Oh, okay.
But it was really good. It was it's a cruise ship, but it's like a small one, like luxury. I think there's 13 cabins or something like
I
that
wouldn't
in
know.
it. And anyways, it was really interesting. One person, she just starts seeing this person, then all of a sudden that person's not there anymore. She doesn't understand why. And it was really good, the twists
Oh,
and
I know
turns
what
in
book
the
you're talking
book.
about. I haven't read it yet, but
Oh,
I think I
okay.
put it on my list somewhere.
Put
Yes.
that in the
okay,
group
good.
chat because
Read
I'm
it.
super interested.
We'll have a little
Read
book
it.
club.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Time.
Hey,
But we'll figure it out.
hold on, listeners. If you want to start a book club, I am dying to be a part of a book club.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
We could,
I'm
book club.
actually
We could have
in the
that could be some like, bonus content we do is like have a little book club. Like we
Book
talk about the
review.
book we
I love it.
read.
Especially if it's
Okay.
water related. Right now I'm reading another book. It's not water related, but it is true crime related. So maybe we could
That's under the
look
umbrella.
into it. It's really good. I have a hard time putting it down at nighttime.
Okay, if
But
you want to get
anyways, this
involved in
isn't
a Coast Files book club, let us know. And
all
we're going
right.
to say goodbye now.
Okay. Bye everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Rate, review,
See you next
subscribe,
week.
give us love, and we'll see
Coffee.
you next week. Yeah, coffee, not
Yes.
Kofi.
Support our coffee account.
Bye.
Thank you for listening today. We loved having you. If you liked the episode, share with your friends, family, or anyone who would enjoy it. Also, take a moment to review our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leaving us a like or comment really helps. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, please visit our coffee page at www.ko-fi.com/coastfiles. Email us at coastfilespod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at coastfilespod, or visit our website at www.coastfiles.com. You can find the sources for today's episode on our website. See you next week with a new episode.